All right. If you're out there, I'm really, really sorry. I was supposed to have Craig Dostie on here today, and that did not work. We were having some audio-visual difficulties, and it made it a little tricky. I tried to hang on, and I finally just said, "Hey, dude, it's not going to work." So uh, if you haven't seen Craig before, brilliant telemark mind, awesome guy to hang out with, and always has good information. I'm just gonna have to roll solo on this, and I'll kind of wing it because I thought I was gonna have a second person to kind of banter with and talk about. But there's always stuff to talk about when it comes to telemark, and we're gonna make it happen. So I'm stoked. So thanks for being here, Black Level members. Always enjoy our monthly chats, and hopefully you're enjoying them as well. It's been fun kind of growing this YouTube community, being able to do these types of things like the live stream and have a platform to sort of talk about stuff. If you haven't caught up on the latest membership videos, I did put a new blue level video up that obviously you all will have access to as well. And then I've got another one that I'm kind of working on that's based on last month's live stream where we talked about the constraints that we can add in our ski environment. And I finally was able to kind of get on slope and show some of that, and wanted to get that up here pretty quick. I've also got some other videos that I'm going to do some telemark breakdowns with that as well for Black Level members. It's been good. We've got some decent snow here finally in the Wasatch, which is always nice. Hopefully you got some snow there. I know I'm headed to Michigan next week, and they actually had to move the event from the Porcupine State Park in the UP of Michigan down to, I think it's called Big Powderhorn Ski Area, which I think is in Ironwood, right on the border with Wisconsin. So if any of you are living out that way and want to come up to Midwest Telefest, I would love, love, love to see you. And I'll be there with our boot fleet and our protector skis for people to try out, and just be there in support of Midwest telemark skiing as a whole, which I've tried to do forever and ever, whether it was showing movies out there or whatnot. Keith Opperman puts on a great event, and there's usually a couple hundred plus skiers there that are all enjoying dropping knees and making the greatest turn on snow. So I can't wait to get out there. So what I was going to talk about with Craig today, I wanted to get his take on this. I'll kind of give you the one-sided take of some of the stuff that's going on out there, and definitely wanted to just kind of bring some stuff into focus, which I think is important with telemark, especially when we're talking about gear and stuff out there. There's been a lot of stuff out there about boots, and I mentioned this on the podcast that came out yesterday, that I would be doing a little video, which I will be doing a video because I want to address like the more specifics of this. But I was going to sort of talk about what we're seeing floating around out there. So as a retailer, you usually start ordering boots for the next year in early January, and you're already starting to see catalogs floating around late November into December. It's pretty wild, right? Like, you don't even know if winter is going to be great the next year, or it's going to be a slow year, or whatever might be happening. You're trying to make sort of a prognosis about, hey, I think the winter is going to be this way. I'm speculating how many boots I can sell and order them. So what's been kind of unique the last few years for me is trying to understand the landscape of telemark boots in general. And because, one, I've been part of testing this new Scarpa boot for the past 5 or 6 years. So I obviously had sort of an inside track. I was understanding what was coming, but I'm also not allowed to talk about it, which is always interesting because I think I was kind of in a unique situation where I know more or less what's coming, although I still don't have a final of what boot ended up being the final product, which is kind of frustrating because on the retail side of my mind, I don't really know what I'm going to be telling people is coming. All of that to say, I'm also trying to look at what issues could be caused or what benefits are going to happen. That's what we're trying to figure out. And when there's new product out there, it's always a little bit tricky because you don't know if it's going to go right. The history of telemark boots has proven over the last 40 years that when new product comes out, a lot of times the first year is not great. And that's why I really wanted to make sure that I knew what was coming out next year. So here's what I found out. I wanted to tell you all about it because I think it's an incredibly important thing to keep in mind and has value to you. And obviously I'll talk about this in one of the videos that just goes on the main YouTube channel, but hopefully you will listen to this ahead of that and kind of get a feel for stuff. And I think it applies to a lot of people. So the first thing that's important about this is the current TX Pro, which the current model is blue and kind of an off orange red, I guess we'll call it blue and red. That boot is no longer going to exist. Okay, it is done. Also, the TX Comp, which is the stiffer version of the TX Pro, is no longer going to exist. Okay. The women's TX Pro, as we know it right now, no longer will exist. Here's the dilemmas I see with this situation is there wasn't really like a transition period. And a lot of people fit these boots and they fit them well. They work. And if you're not talking to someone who really has like a backcountry application to the whole side of telemark, most people aren't really worried about their boot having more range of motion or a little more lightweight. Sort of these features that we associate with backcountry telemark skiing or backcountry skiing in general. So the new boot that's going to be coming out, and I can talk about it because people started putting catalogs out online, whether they should have or not, around Thanksgiving, and all of this information started floating around. I've kind of stayed back from it. Obviously, I was in a little bit different position as a tester, as someone that was helping develop the boot from an information standpoint, and also as a retailer who had current stock. I definitely wasn't going to just go out and talk about my thoughts on this new boot and how great it's going to be or not great or whatever. So I've just been kind of sitting back. So honestly, this is the first time I've really talked about it online and wanted to share my view as well. So what's going on with the new boot is they're actually calling it TX Pro. And really what it is an updated TX Pro. And I don't have the spec sheet in front of me right now, but I'm just going to kind of give you the general idea of what you can expect from this new boot. So range of motion, meaning the way that the cuff moves back and forth. This is a feature that backcountry skiers find especially important because it helps especially when you're walking on flatter terrain, your glide can be longer because you have more range of motion. It gives your legs not inhibited by sort of this angular boot pushing you forward. It allows you to go back and forth like a normal walking motion. So this boot absolutely will have that. 100%. Way more range of motion and better walk mode in general. It is a little more svelte, shall we say. A lot of the material around the boot that we currently know as TX Pro is sort of taken away in this newer TX Pro. It's definitely got a different feel to it. Okay. Things that, and I tried like a floor model on probably 2 months ago, and I've got, again, I don't know what the final is in terms of skiing, but I was able to feel it on the floor, and it was similar to what I have skied in the past. I really do like the bellows on the new boot. I think it's something they did a good job on. Now, I will say that it's fairly soft in the bellows and it feels stiffer throughout the other part of the boot. This is the thing that worries me the most is the flex throughout the boot correct? I don't know. I absolutely don't know. I don't know what the end product actually is. And until I ski it, I'm not going to form an opinion on it, because when you test stuff previously, it changes, and it could change even before it comes out again. So I'll keep you in the loop with that. The big thing I think that over the last 5 or 6 years online and people talking, I think people were expecting this incredibly light boot in terms of like a light touring boot, those similar types of materials you might find in an alpine touring boot. And that just doesn't look like the case from the final that they came up with. Me personally, I'm totally fine with that. And it's okay to not be able, I would rather the materials and the construction of a new product work well for the majority of telemark skiers, since we are in a smaller market, than have something very, very specific that doesn't serve the majority but only serves the minority piece of the market, and then they get rid of everything. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring this topic up, is because I'm not seeing a whole lot of people talking about this online anywhere, mostly because I think there's a pent-up demand for new product and a new boot. So people are just generally excited to have a new boot. But what are the consequences of that? So you've got this new boot. It's not quite as light as people are expecting. It's actually not. It's not way lighter than the current TX Pro. Does have great walk mode, great range of motion. That's all great. But it's a little bit different buckle configurations. I do like some replaceability on it, like the bellow guard's replaceable. The mid strap is replaceable, which breaks a lot on telemark boots because of the cutting motion, your skis going back and forth. These little cables around the instep of your boot tend to get chopped, and that sucks. So there's some replaceability that can happen with parts, and that's awesome. The toe's a little cleaner. It's almost like a more scalloped toe. So, a toe on a normal NTM boot is kind of round. This kind of comes around and indents a little bit where the tech toe fitting is, and then kind of goes away. So anyone who's ever used a tech toe telemark boot knows, like previously up to now, knows that the plastic wasn't really created for that. And so sometimes you have to clear the plastic away, razor blade it away or whatever, or it just kind of comes stock and you just let it wear down. But that's one of the features that is nice, is you got a kind of cleared out toe. So if you are using a tech toe binding of sorts, it's a little bit easier and cleaner design, made specifically for tech toe NTN or a TTS style binding. So that's basically, it's an updated TX Pro in my opinion. It's not like something super tricked out. It's not like crazy new technology. It's probably what should have happened like 5 years ago. Hey, we're coming out with the new TX Pro. It looks like this. That's kind of how it feels to me. I don't think it's anything super crazy, or, I mean, maybe you could say there's some innovation there. But like I said, historically speaking, I think what always happens with telemark boots specifically, is it's a difficult thing to accomplish because you need an even flex throughout the sole. You also need a lot of ankle movement, and you need flexibility throughout the boot to make a good telemark turn. Styles aside, all that, you just need a good, equally flexing boot that all of the pieces sort of work together. And that goes all the way back to when we had leather boots. The type of turn that we're making really requires very specific friendship between the materials and your foot and everything that's going on. And when you don't have that, the boots tend not to come out correctly, and they end up having to reiterate them. My prediction is this. I kind of think this first iteration, unless I go ski this and I start thinking, yeah, they nailed it, that's great, which I hope is the case. Historically speaking, we could be in a situation where this boot comes out, it's close, but it's not quite right, and they have to do a new iteration in fall of 2025. Now, why does that matter? And this is kind of why I was telling you these current boots are no longer going to exist. Well, they're killing TX Comp, which is the stiffer boot, which for aggressive skiers is great, but you got to keep in mind there's also people that like stiff boots for whatever application they want to use. And bigger guys like me and up, sometimes you want, because of the weight ratio when you're skiing, you're just a bigger person, you might want a stiffer boot because you don't want to overpower the plastic on a TX Pro. And so the comp fit several different categories, from aggressive skiers to bigger folks that just, have more weight ratio to what they're flexing in the boot, to people that just like a stiff boot, just in general. That's going away. It's not even going to exist anymore, okay? So my concern is if this updated TX Pro doesn't quite hit the nail on the head fall 24, it's most likely that they're going to reiterate that boot fall 25, and that means 2 years of no other boot. Now, there is a women's updated TX Pro, but basically everyone's going to get funneled in to buying one boot. That's your only option, okay? And my concern is that if that boot isn't just right, then it becomes very difficult for people to want to spend that kind of money. I think retail's probably about $900. Okay. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to invest in a boot. And like I said, if I start getting information, I get a pair of boots and I start figuring it out, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to work. I want to tell all of you out there, and we'll get into it. We'll have a new boot. It'll be great. Best case scenario is the iteration that they finalize and comes into the shops next fall is that it works really well, sells really well, and then they start basing newer models off of that platform, so to speak, and maybe create a stiffer boot like a TX Comp updated based on the new shape, walk mode, features, all of that. That's my hope. So by fall 25, you've actually got two choices, and we're kind of back to where we are right now. So what I was really thinking about, though, and it took me a while to get Scarpa to answer a few of my questions, because as someone not that just commentates on this stuff, but someone who has sold a lot of boots. I mean, we're Scarpa's #1 telemark boot retailer in the world. We sold a lot of telemark boots. My concern was this. People that bought boots this year, the year before, 2 years, 3 years ago, telemark boots, if you're only skiing 20 days a year, like a lot of people, your boots last a long time. The last 2 years, the biggest thing that I've seen was a lack of parts that existed for the current models. So these mid straps that go across the front of your boot that are sort of a wire of sorts, when those get cut, it's very, very difficult to replace them, unlike this newer boot. So that's a bonus. The other thing is the actual replacement parts don't exist, and they haven't for 2 seasons. So one of my questions to Scarpa about a month ago, I said, hey, are you going to make parts? They've assured me that parts are going to be made for the boots, for the current models, and that you will be able to get those. I haven't seen them in 2 years. I would love to see them in the future. Hopefully that is the case, is that they're going to make the parts so that you can maintain your boots. Because if there's one thing I hate, is people thinking you're just going to go buy the new product when your current product works. And somehow you get forced and funneled in that way because, hey, we don't make the parts for that boot. And your boot's literally perfectly fine, but you don't have a strap for it. And now, next thing you know, you're walking through Home Depot looking for all the parts to fix your boots. I mean, I've seen some funny stuff over the years about people trying to keep their boots. There is a point, you just got to get rid of the boot. You got to get a new boot. It's going to be more comfortable. You're not letting water in. I'm not one of those people that says, hey, hold on to stuff for 25 years and never update it. And I'm also not a hater on that too. If someone wants it, everyone's got their own choice. They want to do that, let them do it. But I did want to make sure, especially people who spent their hard-earned money with me, are you going to be able to fix this? That's what I want to make sure. So it sounds like you're going to be able to fix it. Excuse me, I got a little itch on my nose. But parts are one thing. That doesn't mean they are going to be available, but they have said they would be available. So second part of that is, well, what if there's like a catastrophic failure, which I've seen toes blown off. I've seen bellows crack down the seams, cuffs break. There's a lot of different things that can happen to a boot that probably do fall under a legitimate warranty claim. And I said, well, what if someone, hypothetically speaking, bought a boot this year or last year, it's still under warranty, and they have a catastrophic failure of the boot, will they be able to warranty that boot? And the answer was, yes, they will be able to warranty the boot, but there's no these current boots are gone, and we would probably have to replace it with the newer boot. It's not apples to apples, in my opinion, because I don't think this boot, especially, and this is where I was trying to lead into hopefully I'm not wandering too much, because I'll do that sometimes. But if you're a TX comp skier and you have a failure on your boot that's covered under warranty, and they issue you the new boot because that's the only thing they have available to issue for warranty, you're not going to be happy. I don't think that boot it's not apples to apples. You're going to have to take a step in a different direction and get a boot that is going to be very, very different from, I think, what you were normally skiing. And this is my concern. I absolutely hate when there's no transition period in anything. I'm all about change. I'm all about making stuff better. I'm all about evolution. I'm all about moving forward. But have a plan. Have a plan that fits people, normal people, and don't just get rid of everything. I wish they would have overlapped it a little bit. So those are kind of some of the main points. Parts are going to be available. That's great. It's not always easy to fix those parts, just FYI. And anybody who's followed my stuff kind of knows, like, they're not easy fixes because there's epoxied parts into the boots, and if you drill them wrong, you melt the plastic. I mean, it's tricky. It can be done though, but hopefully the parts are available. Warranty issues for someone who has a boot the last couple years, tricky. Also, here's another thing that I think is going to happen. I think you're going to have people that were at the end of TX comp, stiffer boots, and now they got nowhere to go, because you're now taking options away, and the one option is not even close to the option that you're coming from. That's another thing. And I think it's going to steer some people away. Maybe all the way from telemark, because they're just like, all right, whatever. Or they're going to go to the used market. It's going to be hot for a while. I think people are going to buy a lot of these boots. And that leads me to what I was going to talk about just as a retailer. When I look at the boots we're almost out of the current models. All right. This time of year, that's a good thing. So thank you if you bought a pair of boots. That's a good thing, because by the time you get to February, things start to go on sale mid-February, and it's time to move into spring. But a lot of times there's been excess of those boots out there, and this is the year that if you love your current TX Pro and you're not, or comp, especially the comp, and you are listening to this and you realize I absolutely need to have that boot right now because I'm not sure what's coming down the pike in the future, go buy the boot. I probably don't even have it here. There's a couple key sizes that we have left, but go find that boot and support a retailer for your own benefit. Yeah, I'm all about supporting the retailer, but get the boots that you need, because I don't know where it's going to go from here. And you want to have the product that works for you. And I don't see any other options that are going to be happening here pretty soon. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring up with boots. Long discussion about boots. It's always about boots. And anyways, the boot thing is it's very interesting. And I don't think Crispy's going to even bring out, I don't think that's going to be a thing. I don't think Crispy's really going to follow suit. Scott's done making boots as far as I'm concerned. I don't think they're ever going to innovate. I feel like we did. I wish Dossie was on here, because I'm pretty sure he actually confirmed there is no, like, they haven't been, Scott, once they bought Garmont, they haven't manufactured actual new stock in a long time. They were just trying to get rid of it. So there's not a lot of competition going on, and I feel like people are kind of going to get railroaded in one direction, and some people are going to get left in the dust. Oh, another highlight before we move on to the next thing. It sounds like from that catalog that got leaked online is there is Mondo 31. Why is this important? Well, NTN doesn't have Mondo 31. So you're talking like size 13. Not a lot of people have size 13 foot. I get it. It's not like a key size for most people. But you have to remember that 75 millimeter boots, specifically in the T2 Eco, go to size 32. That's been available. T-Race, T1, those boots only went to 31, and NTN's always been stuck at 30. So one of the questions I kept asking was, do we have to have a different binding, or can you make a size? Does the size 31 work in large NTN? I don't know. Food for thought. All right. Well, let's move on from boots. I know I started late, so I don't know if this is going to be a full hour, but please forgive me, and I'll keep firing more content your way. I wanted to give you a little behind the scenes of what you can think of in terms of bindings next year, which I think is kind of interesting. And this is like literally, this is online. We kind of knew because we got the dealer catalog. This is from 22 Designs on the binding front, which I love 22 Designs. Like if I had to choose a binding to ski and spend money on, that's what I would spend my money on. It's easy to use, easy to mount, easy to maintain. It's just simple, right? So as a dealer, we, like I said, we start seeing what's coming next year so we can order it and be done. Well, there's a new binding in town, and it's called the Bandit. And this is an interesting move. I knew this was coming. And Dossie, this was a lot of the reason I wanted to have Dossie on, so maybe we'll make it up and do a shorter, like 30-minute live or something, so you guys can all hop on and talk about this. He always called it the in-law, because there was always talk about the Outlaw had a tour mode, and we were always saying, yeah, you should make a resort binding. And Dossie used to call it the in-law. The in-law's coming. And it's kind of been, that's kind of been the slang we've used between us in conversations for a while. And if you want to go check this out, it's online too, which is crazy because people are going to find this stuff. I mean, if you publish it somewhere that you don't think people are going to find it, people are on the internet all day. They're going to find this stuff. So just go 22designs.com/catalog and you can see a picture of it. It's like lime green. And basically what it is, the heel is like a vise. And yeah, it's an Outlaw with no tour mode. Here's I think people think I just poo-poo on all this stuff, but I don't think it's going to be that less expensive. I'm all for resort binding, 100%, because that's where telemark can grow the most. That's where all the people are at. Let's show them telemark. Let's give them a place to go telemark, rent telemark, do telemark. The thing with the Outlaw that's great is most people buy that binding and they're just like the Axle back in the day, and they never ever use the tour mode. And I think I always thought, I was always under the impression that if you have the tour mode, that's just an extra cost that's being associated with it. And I thought maybe if you got rid of the tour mode, maybe you could make the binding cheaper and more accessible, because that just seemed to make sense in my head. Obviously, I don't make binding, so I don't know. But it's that's not the case, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember what the price point. Let me see. Let me see if it's here. Maybe it is here. The catalog's probably somewhere, and I don't see it yet. I don't see the price, but I don't think it's much cheaper. And I think we're so accustomed. So if I have a choice between this new Bandit binding and the Outlaw binding, and let's say you're talking $50, and I'm totally like making this up, so maybe it's more than that, but I'm pretty sure it's in the 400s still. So like let's just for the just to have the topic conversation. If it's not that much less and you can get the tour mode for not that much more, why don't you just do that? All the other features are the same. Basically, they just created this. It literally looks like an Outlaw X. It's got a vice heel piece, and then it's just, instead of on a tour mode, it's on like a new plastic base thing. I don't know. It is what it is. So tricky. I don't know really what to think about that. Here's the other funny thing about that catalog. There's no vice. So the resort binding in the 75 millimeter category no longer, it appears, allegedly, doesn't exist. What does that mean? I don't know. I mean, maybe they weren't selling a whole lot of them, but it was the least expensive and the best 75 millimeter binding, in my opinion, out there. So very durable. Again, easy to use. Parts are available. Easy to mount. Great binding. Vice. No tour mode. Less expensive. I think you were in the $300 range. And apparently it's gone. There's a kid's version of it, which is like softy springs, whatever. So that's cool. The shift to NTN, that's cool too, because I've always said NTN and regular 75, it's how you fasten to the ski. Literally doesn't matter. It's just different boot and binding system, you know? So, and I've always said, as long as you can get the boot and binding system in NTN to feel like all the different variations of telemark skiers around the globe, you're golden. So more customization, all that stuff, that's great. But yeah, Vice is gone. I don't even know what to think about that. It's very, very interesting. And I was just looking. Sorry, I wanted to make sure that Bandit didn't have a oh, no. It's got a set pivot point, just like the Outlaw X. But yeah, I'm sure I'll be talking a little bit more about this. I'm curious where all this is going to head. What I would love to see is like, how can you come up? I mean, just to finish that thought, if you're going to have this new binding and it's not that much less money, why don't we just stick with what's working and just keep the tour mode in it, and you pay $460 for it? I'd love to see something significantly less in terms of price, but I don't know. Again, sometimes I'm shooting from the hip, and yeah, I get, I'm not talking from like manufacturing perspective and costs and all that. That's it. It's hard, not easy to make stuff, but the similarities between the two, I don't see it being like a lot of, if it's not that big of a difference in terms of price, I kind of just think people are going to be like, well, why don't I just pay the $50 to get the tour mode? And that's what's going to happen. So there's my binding prediction for the new Bandit. Bring on the Bandit. Outlaw and the Bandit. There you go. So yeah, go check that out. 22designs.com/catalog, and you can see a picture of it. So there's some behind the scenes goodness for you to scope out. So we talked about boots. Going to be interesting with what comes out next fall in terms of boots. I'll keep you updated on that. It's going to be really interesting to hear what comes out in terms of the binding. I am not sure how that's going to all play out. Other than that, I don't think there's any other new bindings that are coming out. So hold on to the stuff you like, because I don't know. It might just, people always say telemark is dead or it's gonna die. Look, we're pretty resilient and we'll figure it out. But I will say this: if you want to be comfortable and you like what you're skiing, that's why I brought this stuff up. Get ahead of the game. Stockpile those bindings and boots, at least just to weather the storm of the possibility that some of this stuff isn't going to go the way that we want it to. I hope it does. I hope we get exactly what we want. I hope the manufacturers make the perfect thing right off the bat. But what if they don't? If they don't make the right thing, then I don't want you to skip a season. I don't want to skip a season. I want to go telemark. I got lots of boots, old and new. And that's what it's all about. All right. Like I said, this is probably going to be a little bit shorter one. If you didn't check out the podcast this week, I'll just recap that real quick. Mike Kaz, good friend of mine. If you're interested in the business side of the house of like skis, like ski business, and obviously more specific telemark business stuff, if you like that kind of stuff, we talk a lot about that. That's why I wanted him to come on. He's a 30-year veteran in the ski snow space. He's worked for iconic telemark brands like Carhu. He's worked for Dynafit while they were like super small and kind of grew and what knocked telemark out of the retail space a lot. He's a current specialty buyer at the Mountaineer in Keene, New York, outside of the in the Adirondacks. Very interesting perspective, and we talk a lot about that. So if you're not a podcast listener or you haven't caught that episode, it's great. I had a great time doing it, and I think you'll enjoy it if you like that kind of stuff. And it's not all like business talk. We also kind of got into just what makes telemark skiers the way that they are. Why do people get so passionate about it? And he's just a great guy, and I had a really great time talking to him. So hopefully you'll check that out. Episode 190 of the Free Heel Life podcast is live now. Videos on the YouTube channel, or you can head on over to any podcast platform and let me know what you think on that. Like I said, black level and blue level members of YouTube, I did leg drag video. I did a 1 hot minute about leg drag. Those are fun, but that was one of those free videos. So for members, you're paying me money to do stuff, so I don't want to promote. Thank you for your membership. Now go watch a free video. That's ridiculous. No, I did another one where for the blue level and up that you can check out. I can't even remember the name of it. Let me look it up because that's ridiculous that I can't remember. Telemark tricks for your hips. That's what it's called. Using your poles, working with the hips. I talked a lot about that in the last live about using constraints to help good body position emerge, good technique emerge out of constraining your situation when you're skiing. by adding things that are making you have to turn longer or shorter, more frequently, less frequently, that sort of thing. But the tricks for your hips thing, it's where you use your poles as sort of a hip guide by wrapping them around your body. And it's a great, great exercise. I've used this I actually learned it in a clinic many years ago, probably 25 years ago. And I've always used it when I teach people. You got to be careful not to fall on your poles. That's good. But I actually demonstrate it both with the straps around my waist and also just holding the pole. So there's a safe way to do it. And it's great for beginner and intermediate people who are struggling with body position because it gives you like a peripheral view of what your hips are doing with these extensions off of the side of your body. So I encourage you to check that one out as well. Like I said, I've got a black level specific for you that I'm going to be doing. I shot it that same day. I just need to finish editing it, and it's not too long and too crazy detailed. Also, one of our black level members, Adam, sent in a bunch of videos to critique, I believe. So I'm going to do that, and I appreciate that. It's great. I've got videos to do, and I know the membership, it's like one video a month or something like that. I'm definitely trying to get as much to you as possible. So hopefully you're happy out there. You know, I want this to be a mutual beneficial relationship, and you can always email me at podcast@freeheellife.com. That's usually where I see a lot of this stuff. And happy. Tell me you're happy, sad, need more of something. I'm here to take care of you. I do this because I'm passionate about telemark skiing. It's something I really love and have always cared about. And yeah, obviously it's a business. I need to make money. But I also am a big believer that if you're spending your hard-earned dollars, you need to be getting what you want, and I need to deliver. And sometimes, I'm a one-man operation for the most part, and I got to deliver what you think you're going to get. So I'm always open to that if you have feedback or whatnot. So I always appreciate patience because video and just content in general sometimes takes a little bit longer to do. All right, I'm going to wrap up here. Much love, everybody. Super happy I can get on. Sorry Dosty wasn't here, and I'm going to have to reschedule with him. He had a phone call, so sorry I was fiddling around trying to get his audio working, and it just didn't work. But hopefully you learned a little bit about what's coming up with boot and bindings ahead of everybody else. Go buy those boots as soon as possible. Hey, wait, I'll be right there with you next year with the boot. Okay? I'm going to buy a pair. Seriously, I might just buy them retail. I want to experience what's happening and do it with all of you out there. No deals, no hookups. Because I feel like when I'm spending $900 on a pair of boots, it's going to feel a little bit different. So I have considered that, and highly likely that I may just do that because I want to be able to have a very objective opinion about what's going on. And you can't do that when people give you a deal. You can't get free boots and then give someone a great opinion and not feel like you're tied to something. So stay tuned on that. Stay tuned on the boots. And go check out that catalog, 22designs.com/catalog. And you can see all the cool stuff about the Bandit, the lime green Bandit. And hopefully that was good. Hopefully you enjoyed the live stream. I don't know if anybody actually tuned in like live. So if you're catching this afterward, I hope you're having a great day too. And until next month, last Tuesday of the month, black level members only. Spread telemark always. I will see you later. And if you're in the Midwest, come see me February 9 through 11 up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We're going to rock and roll. See you later, everybody. Peace.